Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Brandt. I am one of the career specialists at the Office of Career Development and Calling here at Bethel University. Today we will be covering how to build and structure your resume as an upcoming graduate student. So your resume is your ticket into an interview. So it's kind of your face before you're actually able to show your face. And this resume is going to be slightly different from the resume that you probably created to get into this program. And it's going to be different from all the other resumes you might have created for various jobs throughout your time here at Bethel. There are stats that show 3 to 4% of jobs are obtained by candidates who just have a basic resume and basic application materials and do not personalize it. 12 to 15% of jobs are obtained through personalized application materials and their resume. So that means changing the resume and application materials such as a cover letter to match the job description. Something shocking is 60 to 80% of jobs are obtained through a networking connection. Regardless if you have a networking connection, you still need a resume and application materials. So you could really bump up your chances of obtaining that job if you have a personalized resume and application materials. So that is what we are going to be covering today, how to personalize your resume to include your graduate counseling experience and to tailor it to the position that you are applying for. All right, so now we're going to go over the basics of the structure of how to build your resume. So for the order, we are going to be talking about the chronological resume. There is a functional resume as well, so you can research that and what that might look like. For the chronological resume, you will use your most recent experience and work your way down. For margins, you want to stay between 1/2 inch and 1.5 inches on all sides. For the font, you want to stick with 10 to 12 size, making sure it's a legible font. You don't have to stick with Times New Roman, but make sure that you're using something that is clear, legible, and professional. And you want to make sure that all of your sections are separated and that the reader can easily distinguish between different sections. Usually that means by bolding or underlining the section headers. The length for a graduate student should stick around 1 to 2 pages. We are now going to walk through the different sections of your chronological resume. Section 1 is your contact information. This goes at the top of the resume. As you can see below, we have Jane Doe. Her first and last name are bold, capitalized, and centered. This is the one area of your resume that you can go outside of that 10 to 12 size font. This is kind of the face of your resume. You want your name to stand out. You can include your middle name or middle initial, especially if you go by that middle name, but it is not necessary. Beneath that is where the rest of your contact information will go. As you can see, Jane put St. Paul, Minnesota, and not her full address. This is optional, it's up to you. We just have the city and state because usually now you will have an application that you will fill out along with your resume, and in that application you'll put your full address. So here on your resume you just need the city and state. You can distinguish between a temporary address and your permanent address, especially if that is going to change based on when you apply for that job. You will then put your cell phone number and then your email. You can do your Bethel email or your personal email. I suggest doing your personal one that has a combination of your first and last name. This might mean that you need to create a new email, which is actually okay because this can actually be your email that you use specifically for job searching. Another option that you can add here is your LinkedIn profile URL. Or any other profile link if you have a portfolio of some sort, that is where this URL can go as well. Moving on to section 2 of your resume is your summary of qualifications. As you can see below, Jane titled this heading Personal Profile. It can also be titled Objective. So really, it's up to you. A lot of times, companies do not care whether you put summary of qualifications, personal profile, or objective. Just be sure that when you are reading through the application material requirements of that job, that it doesn't specifically state what you need. So really, all three of these things will have the same content beneath them. It can be in bullet point or sentence structure. It's basically where you are highlighting your direct skills and you are really selling yourself to make sure that they are wanting to read the rest of your resume. So this goes just beneath your first and last name. You also want to quantify where applicable. Anytime that you can add a percentage or a group number of people, you'll want to put that in here to really add depth to your profile. The next section is section 3, which is your clinical experience. This will be within your top half or middle part of your resume, and that is because it is probably your most recent experience and the most applicable experience to the jobs that you will be applying for. As you can see, Jane highlighted her heading by bolding, capitalizing, and underlining the clinical experience, and then beneath that separated each of her internships with the title as the bolded part, and then where she had that internship, as well as what year she started and ended those internships. Again, you want to quantify wherever you are able to. So here, Jane highlighted ages 5 through 35 to mark what clients she worked with. I will suggest another thing that you can add is the amount of clients you had, so your caseload, or you can put any percentages that you helped increase, anything that you can quantify, you want to do so here. Jane has 3 bullet points per internship, and that's about where you want to stick with, is 3 to 4 bullet points. You might see some templates have sentences under the description of their positions. I would suggest sticking with bullet points to make it more clear to the reader. Each bullet point is also starting with an action verb. So counseled, co-led, observed, etc. Make sure that you start each bullet point with an action word. You can go to synonym.com to come up with different words so that you're starting each bullet point with a different word. A list of words can be found online as well. So assisted, counseled, designed, determined, discussed, educated, explained. Those are just a few of the long lists that you will find online and on synonyms.com. Section 4 of your resume is your professional experience. This is where you will highlight your work experience that was outside of your clinical work. As you can see here, Jane Doe is an administrative assistant at Bethel University currently. So she has her start and end dates where the end date just says present. And again, 3 bullet points to describe her work. This is where you really want to tailor your professional experience to the job you are applying for. You do not need to include every job that you have ever had, making sure that you are picking and choosing which jobs to highlight that are going to emphasize your skills and your knowledge for that job. You also want to make sure that you are quantifying where you are able to and starting each bullet point with an action verb. This is where it will be really important for you to highlight transferable skills. So skills and knowledge that you can apply to any job that you are applying for, regardless of what that experience was. Section 5 includes your education. And you can highlight this section by writing academic background or education. You can choose. As you can see, you will highlight both of your graduate school and your undergraduate school. You will put your degree and then your major or minor. You can highlight certain courses, especially if the application requires that you have taken certain courses You can also highlight your GPA here as long as it is above a 3.0. You may also include any honors that you received. So Jane Doe here put cum laude for University of Northwestern. And then other things like scholarships can go in the next section. Section 6 is your activities or other experiences that you want to highlight in your resume. So here Jane put her international experience and volunteer experience, and she separated those. You do not have to separate those under two different headings. You can include all of these items under an activities heading, but this is where you will highlight volunteer experience, any involvement that you've had in clubs, organizations, sports, study abroad, and you can see below the two different types of descriptions under both of those headings for your reference. Now we are seeing the resume for Jane all together. You can see that there is adequate amount of white space. The headings are clearly read and distinguished between the different sections of the resume. It is clean, professional, and it allows the reader to look quickly at the content that they really care about. Something to note is it is studied that recruiters will look at resumes for about 6 seconds. So that is why it is so important to have a very clean, professional looking resume. And I will note you can move some of these sections around. So if your professional experience is more aligned to the job than your academic background or your clinical experience, you can move those around as you see fit, making sure the most relevant and recent experience starts at the top and you work your way down. As you work through your resume, please feel free to reach out to Career Development and Calling with any questions that you might have. If you would like us to review your resume, we'd be happy to give you suggestions and help you along that process. We are doing virtual meetings right now, and you can schedule that through Handshake. If you do not have a Handshake account set up just yet, you can follow the link below, bethel.joinhandshake.com, using your Bethel login information, and you can schedule a meeting today. Thank you so much for listening.